So this is Diesel We the People News. I thought I'll just bring this up because it was interesting. We talked about it on several channels before, right? At one time we did not have bars for attorneys or anything. So what did they do before then, right? Well, I guess here recently, and I say recently, and within this past year, the Fifth Circuit Court ruled, or opinion, now I keep on saying rule for y'all, but the Texas Fifth Circuit courts, which is Louisiana and so on, says cannot be forced lawyers into join the bar. Well, we talked about this before, right? You pay all this money to do a college, and then you got to take some type of test to become a bar member. But why? Why do you have to become a bar member is the issue. I much prefer, if I'm going to pay for a lawyer, there's going to be a lawyer that's not tied in with the bar. Alright? There's certain guidelines that they go by, like, well, I'm not going to get into all that. I've talked about it in the past. But let's talk about, or listen to this.
Fascinating story out of Texas involving attorneys. Right now, every attorney in America is going, huh? Fifth Circuit. Texas lawyers don't have to join the state bar and pay dues. Don't have to join the bar. CourthouseNews.com published it. Cameron Langford wrote it. Jesse and Josh sent it to me. I'm a member of the Michigan State Bar, but Texas, apparently things are different. 3 Texas attorneys filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the president of the bar and its board members, claiming it had overstepped its core regulatory functions by getting involved in politics a little bit too deeply. Getting involved in politics a little bit too deeply. They argued that compelling them to join the bar, which is a requirement to practice law in the state, and then forcing them to pay dues that subsidized the political activities of the bar violated their First Amendment rights. They appealed to the Fifth Circuit after a U.S. district judge granted summary judgment in favor of the state bar. So the first judge they went in front of said, nah, you got to join the bar. Get out of here. They took it up on appeal, and the Court of Appeals says, wait a second. There's more going on here. And this is a very, very interesting issue. A 3-judge panel of the New Orleans-based appellate court sided with the challengers recently. Federal courts have been grappling with these issues for decades. And in a case from the Supreme Court in 1961, an attorney had argued that mandatory membership in the Wisconsin State Bar violated his First Amendment right to freedom of association because the bar was using its funds and employees to influence legislation. He had paid his mandatory $15 annual dues back then under protest and sued for a refund. The Supreme Court found no First Amendment violation because the Wisconsin bar had limited its lobbying to legislation involving the state court system and attorney compensation. So at the time, the Supreme Court said, look, it appears that the bar is advocating for you. So when you give them dues and they advocate for you, you can't complain about it. But the difference is whether they're advocating for you or, for instance, getting involved in same-sex marriages or immigration and things that are not advocating for the attorneys, that is a different issue, and that's what the court is saying here. So the State Bar of Texas is a public corporation. It's controlled by the Texas Supreme Court, and it has more than 120,000 members. They pay mandatory dues ranging from $68 to $235. And if they're on inactive status but want to stay members, they got to pay $50. It also charges some attorneys a $65 legal services fee, which go to the state comptroller. Writing for the panel, U.S. Circuit Judge Jerry Smith distilled the appeal to this question. Can lawyers be constitutionally mandated to join a bar that engages in activities not germane to regulating the legal profession or improving the quality of legal services? Joined by the 2 other judges, Smith found the Texas State Bar had strayed from its core functions by lobbying for passages of bills in the Texas legislature's 2019 session relating to substantive Texas law, but wholly disconnected from the court system. For example, he wrote in his 34-page order, The bar lobbied to amend the Texas Constitution's definition of marriage. Why would the bar take a position on that? Smith, however, found most of the state bar's activities were germane to its mission, including the more than $1 million it's spent annually on a program that connects pro bono volunteers to clients in need of legal aid. And again, that makes complete sense. That's one of the missions of the bar, is to get representation available for people. So if they spend money making that happen, it makes complete sense. But when they spend money lobbying the legislature to change the definitions of things like marriage, then what's that got to do with the practice of law? The panel rejected the plaintiff's claims that the bar's facilitation of representation for undocumented immigrants is an ideological activity. There is no reason to believe that facilitating lawyers' representation of aliens in navigating immigration laws constitutes an endorsement of any particular viewpoint about those statutes, Smith wrote. The state bar also spends $500,000 per year on an Office of Minority Affairs, whose goal is to enhance legal employment opportunities. And the panel rejected the plaintiff's claims that these diversity initiatives are highly ideological, but it did find the state bar's system of refunding dues is unconstitutional. Attorneys can lodge complaints about spending decisions at the bar's annual hearings on its proposed budget and with bar committees. But the decision on giving them a refund is left up to the bar's executive director. In the event a refund is denied, the objecting attorney is out of luck, the ruling said. The panel granted the challengers a preliminary injunction blocking the state bar from requiring them to join and pay dues, granted them summary judgment on their First Amendment freedom of association claims, and remanded the case back to decide the full scope of relief they're entitled to. Despite the setback, the state bar was upbeat about the ruling. Its executive director said its directors are gratified the panel upheld the constitutionality of its continuing legal education classes, its diversity initiatives, and the bulk of the activities of an Access to Justice Commission that helped poor Texans access legal services. We continue to believe the state bar's legislative program and all of its access to justice initiatives are germane to regulating the legal profession and improving the quality of legal services, and respectfully disagree with the panel's contrary conclusion. We're assessing the bar's next steps in light of the panel's opinion, he said in an email statement. Here's the thing. What they're going to have to do, I suspect, unless this changes on appeal, they take it to the U.S. Supreme Court and it changes, is they're going to have to make a decision. Are we going to have a bar association where people don't have to join us? And in that case, who's going to join you? Or are we going to stop our lobbying for things that aren't related to what we do? And that would make the most sense. And, here's the thing. I'm a member of the Michigan State Bar. And from what I can tell, the Michigan State Bar does not do a whole lot of that extracurricular stuff. At least I've not seen any that caught my attention. I can tell you, though, that occasionally a State Bar journal, they publish a magazine, puts out articles. And once in a while I've seen articles that are kind of like, whoa, that's kind of, ideologically to one side or the other. But they say, look, we don't endorse what's in here necessarily. We simply are trying to further legal education. And if somebody sends us in an article that appears to be cutting edge and well written and authoritative, we'll publish it, especially if it's on the topic that we're doing a thing on. And every now and then you'll see one where you'll go, that's a little bit out there in terms of its politics, but it's not that crazy. But the Bar Association at its core regulates attorneys. That's the number one function of the bar. They regulate attorneys. So when you open up the phone book and dial your phone to speak to an attorney, and the attorney is a member of the bar, you can understand there's some basic baselines that have been met by that person. They passed the bar, they pay their dues, they're currently licensed and so on. You know that they've got some basic foundation there that they're working from. It's not a guarantee that you're getting the best attorney on earth, but you're getting an attorney of a certain caliber, right? So the state bar oversees getting in, getting qualified, and it keeps track of attorneys. If attorneys who've got problems later on down the road with discipline, they handle the discipline. If somebody gets disciplined and gets kicked out, they watch the person and make sure they get kicked out. Okay, so governing the attorneys is job number one. What else do they do? Well, there's actually a whole organization in Lansing, for instance, where the bar is, and they do all kinds of stuff. But the stuff I'm familiar with, they publish the Bar Journal, which is, updates on the law and so on for attorneys. They do have Access to Justice groups. So, like, for instance, if you are in need of legal help, you can call the State Bar of Michigan and go, I don't know where to go. Where can I turn for legal help? And they'll ask you what kind of situation you've got, and they'll point you in the right direction. And to run that organization does take money, and we pay dues. I've been paying dues now for 30 years. They also put on an annual bar meeting where once a year they invite all the bar members to come on out to a 3 or 4 day conference. People speak, and they have vendors there, and they hold an election, and they elect a president of the state bar, and they have a slate of people, and those people run the bar. And the bulk of what they do is just administration of the organization that oversees attorneys. And that's what they're supposed to do. So when you hear that the bar also is getting involved in political issues and going to the Capitol and lobbying, trying to get certain bills passed or trying to stop certain bills, you then have to look at the bills and go, okay, what do those bills have to do with the practice of law? That's the question. And if they're getting involved in things that are more political than they are legal practice, then you've got an issue. Because I can understand why somebody would say, I don't want my bar dues going to push some political agenda that's got nothing to do with my practice of law. So I'll be interested to see what happens here, because number one, obviously they could still appeal this or try to appeal this to the Supreme Court. Or when it gets sent back down, there's going to be more fighting there. But it might be that the bar's got to make a choice. Do we stop with the political issues, or do we actually just keep doing that and see what happens to our membership? Because they've got a lot of members, over 100,000, 120,000 lawyers in Texas. People licensed to practice law there, 120,000. Wow. So, they got a big war chest, but that's only a big war chest while they've got that many members who are paying their dues, so we'll see what happens. Crazy case, though, Fifth Circuit. Texas lawyers don't have to join state bar and pay dues. Cameron Langford wrote it for thecourthousenews.com. Jesse and Josh both assigned it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Later.
Alrighty. So, I'm going to try to keep up with that, but I get pretty busy sometimes, so I may forget about it. Again, I'm making this video for more of me to remind myself of things, but also for a learning channel and a news. It's Diesel with the People News. And I actually think this was pretty good news. Once again, from my behalf, we did not start off in this country with bars, right? It came from England. Of course, everything we had came from England. Our Constitution came from England. Everything we write on paperwork came from England. If you look at today's laws and rules and regulations, it's the exact same as England's. Of course, there's a slight difference, obviously, but what can we say? So, interesting. And you already know how I feel. The Supreme Court also said, I can't even remember what year it was, but the Supreme Court says that attorneys cannot be licensed. Okay? So he says license, but it's not a license, it's a membership card. And whether they're supposed to protect them or whether we have a place to call and complain, I don't know. But that begs the difference. So if we don't have a bar to complain to, who do we complain to, right? Even though we don't think the complaint goes very far with our attorneys, without the bar, who do we complain to? Well, that would probably go more into lawsuit, and you would have to know the laws that the attorneys are breaking or the rules they're breaking that caused you harm. So, attorneys would be pretty much left on their own if you file a lawsuit on attorneys. So, bunch of good questions to add to this list. Diesel with the People News. Bye, y'all.